Welcome to the Guy at the Movies podcast with Joe and Sean. I am Joe. He is Sean. And we are joined this week by the one, the only Burkenator, Austin Burke. How's it going?
Oh, it's going fantastic, man. Well, busy day, busy weekend, but I'm finally settling down, feeling good, and I'm just so psyched to be on here with you two. I love what you all do, and as soon as you reached out to me, I said, I've got to do this and make it happen. I'm so glad to finally be here.
Pleasure to have you. As always, we are big fans of yours as well. Happy we can make it work out. I know you have a lot going on your end with the move and everything, but movies never stop, Austin. So we gotta make do.
Keep on it, man.
Sean, how are you? I heard you were casting Knives Out 2.
Once again, casted Knives Out 2 and 3, so I know that I make it to the third one. I feel like them announcing that makes it a bit of a spoiler, but still excited. Yes.
Who knows? You could be like a flashback or something.
That could be it. Yes.
Yeah. Watch out. Do we really think that it's going to end with Knives Out 3? Let's be real. The way that Netflix works.
Oh no, they'll keep going, baby. They do 3. Yeah.
They're going to milk it. I mean, we'll get 7 or 8 of these puppies, then they'll do 5 spinoffs. So that's just how it is at Netflix. Yeah.
Knives Out 4 to all the boys I loved before.
And a prequel anime series. Crazy. Well, look, let's dive into some of the stuff that we will be, or that we've been watching, and talk about some of our top picks of the week. I'm going to touch on a few real quick. The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It review went up today. It comes out this Friday. Full disclosure is I'm not the biggest fan of the Conjuring movies, but I really enjoyed this one. I had a blast with it. It was... Maybe it's like being back in theaters for horror, and we talk about this all the time, that horror has to be seen in theaters, in my opinion, to get the full effect. But it is a good movie. It's more intricate than the other two, and I recommend it for people that are interested in horror itself, but also the series. I think they really... when's the last time a threequel was actually as good as I believe this is? So, yeah. Austin, are you a fan of the Conjuring movies?
I am. I absolutely love the first one. Now, when you start getting into the spinoffs like the Annabelles, and it goes kind of up and down for me. I think they're very inconsistent there, but I like the first one a lot, and I like the second one quite a bit. So I'm really hyped for this, and it's good to hear that it's of that quality, at least.
Yeah, it definitely was up there for me. I was pleasantly surprised. Was not one that I was totally looking forward to, but hey, love that. love when that happens with a movie. Yeah. Sean, you're not the biggest horror guy, but Conjuring, have you seen them?
I've never seen one of them, and I was Insidious one of them, or no? That was an off-brand
different series.
Yeah, because I just know Patrick Wilson was in that one, right? Or was that someone else?
And I believe that was James Wan directing that as well.
It was. Yes, yep. So that's a very connected thing where I get very that kind of thing. Like, come on. I mean, if you're going to put all that in there, and it's also like a horror, like scary kid. Yeah. But no, I only have seen that one that actually does not work for this conversation. But I'll give an anecdote of it anyway. But it was on a overblown screen where the high school kids like got together on the bleachers and watched it for a fundraiser and stuff. And it was like this fun little thing. And I was one of the chaperones that didn't watch the kids at all because I was on the other side of the screen crying and shaking. So in that regard, I don't know if the Conjurings are for me. I'd love to just sort of go through all of them, as fast as possible, maybe hit it through a week, because I do feel like I'm missing out on something that's a lot of fun.
The nice thing with these is for the Conjuring 3, you only have to watch Conjuring and Conjuring 2. Yes. The others are spin-offs that are, of course, connected in some way and referenced, but you don't really miss much. It's funny hearing you talk about you guys watched Insidious as a school, because when I was advising a group in college, when I worked at Drexel University in Philly, I was like, yeah, Bridesmaid's supposed to be a big movie. That'll be so much fun. Let's watch that outside in West Philadelphia on the big screen. It opens with a sex scene, and West Philadelphia had quite the show. So I'm a really good advisor, is what I mean.
Several bedrooms just looking right at John Hamm. John's Hamm.
Well done. Two other things I watched. I finally caught The Dissident, which is a documentary about the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. This was on my radar for the longest time, and as happens every once in a while, just fell off. But I caught it the other day, and it just infuriated me at the end. But it's a very well done documentary. Highly recommend it. Very modern in the use of technology to explain certain aspects of the film as well. And I think it's very it puts a new spin or a new dimension of understanding on the Middle East, and especially Saudi Arabia, and some of the stories that we all are familiar with, but maybe don't totally understand. And I finally started watching The Mayor of Easttown for all of you people that have told me to start it. I'm one episode in, but I love what I was seeing, so I'll probably be done tonight or something.
Welcome home.
I will say, having been raised around Philadelphia, it is very fascinating to see an actress who does not have the accent try to do the accent. She said something about like hometown or something, and I was like, okay, there we go. And she was carrying a Wawa coffee cup, and I was like, yes, you're like spot on.
They're hitting them.
They're doing it like all in one episode too, like knocking all that. But Sean, Cruella.
Man, I was rooting for this one. I really wanted it to do well, and it was one of those ones that I was excited to see because the critics thought it was a bastion of celluloid film, and the audiences thought it was the greatest thing to ever have been seen across our screens in this time. And I was just like, okay, so this is going to be fun. So I took the really hardcore stance of a C, and when it comes to this movie, I just think that there was just like this like sort of like animated like heist after animated like heist that often didn't really go anywhere. And in the end, I just wasn't terribly like satisfied by it. And also, you know, if all the dog is doing is walking down and then lying down somewhere on the floor, don't CGI the dog. Get some cheese. Train the fucking dog. I can't that shit, man. Like, okay, if they're jumping off the cliff to kill, if they're jumping off the cliff to get someone or something like that, it's like, okay, yeah, cool, CGI the dog, that's fine, I understand it. Let's not hurt the dog. But if the dog's walking by, let's get a dog. And I know these are Dalmatians that are like not able to be trained, like you know, naturally. But it's just one of this, didn't you? that drove me. It was like the last like thing where like she's just chilling and the dogs are there, and I was just like, oh, come on. And it got to me. I think that this doesn't have to be consistent to the Cruella de Vil of the animated character, but if you want it to be, you failed. And if you are taking this as a separate character, I don't know the point of this. And I hate saying that a movie is pointless. I hate saying a movie lacks a purpose, because then I get into my like Sean soapbox where I'm like, well, technically all movies have no purpose and all movies have no point technically. But with this one, like, really, I don't know what the character's point was. I don't know what the purpose was. If you take away what like happens later, and even if what you put in there, what you put in the animated series, oh, how am I doing? The animated movie later, it just betrays that character. And so, all in all, there was some fun. Paul Walter Hauser is actually an animated character, and I just absolutely love that guy. He plays Horace, one of the henchmen, and. And after that, it was just a little bit tough for me.
Austin, did you see this by chance?
I did. I think I'm actually on the other side of Sean. I like this movie. I thought it was really good. I thought it was so different, and maybe it's my comparison to some of the other Disney live action things, and they just kind of follow the. But here's the thing. I have no connection to Cruella de Vil, the character. I don't care. And everybody's, a little bit of like, oh, it's going away from what we know of the character. I'm like, I don't care about the character. Just give me something different. And I like Craig Gillespie, I believe is the director's name. I really like his style. Similar-ish kind of character study to an I, Tonya, which I thought he did a phenomenal job with. But translating that to this Disney world is interesting. I completely agree about the stupid dogs. What are you doing? They're fake. Why are they fake? Get a real dog. I like what you said about the cheese, but I just don't understand. I don't understand why you get this unnecessary CGI in a film that, kind of goes away from that Disney CGI remake feeling. Yeah. It feels so different. I loved all of the different transitions and the text on the screen and how stylish it was. I do think it's repetitive. And I do think it goes on too long. I think those are my two big issues with it. So I'm not overwhelmed. It's not my favorite Disney live action, not a remake, whatever. But I liked it. I thought they did a really good job with it, to be honest.
I'm actually with you there. The CGI didn't bother me at all, but now I want to go back and watch it because I'm like, maybe I missed that part. But
I almost missed it, honestly.
my two major things. One is that it heavily relies on the Clark Kent effect with like she puts on a wig and a little bit of a mask, and suddenly we can't tell that it's Estelle. It's suddenly Cruella. So that part bothered me. And then a little bit of a spoiler alert here. So I'll give a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The thing that really got me was we're supposed to treat this as an origin story where she hates Dalmatians after this, but she takes the Dalmatians and now has the Dalmatians at the end. Yeah. And I was like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, but they weren't real Dalmatians. That's the good news. Like, they were just
hey. She CGI'd them. The
ultimate meta.
Yeah, but all in all, I was impressed with it. I think Craig Gillespie's talking today about, or at least articles are running today with him talking about sequel ideas. And I was like, do a rated R sequel where she just goes full blown villain. Like, let's just get there, but that will never happen. But I'd see another one. I think I really like Emma Stone, and I love Evan Thompson. My God, do I love Evan Thompson.
They were wonderful in it. Them going back and forth was just absolutely wonderful. And people are making these comparisons to Devil Wears Prada, and I sort of get that, but I think that these two characters matched each other much better, and it made for like a much more, fun back and forth between them. And so, there was some good stuff there. Yeah, well, it, like you were saying, Austin, a little bit long, but you got through the 2.5 hour or 2:15 just because of that kind of stuff, without a doubt.
Yeah, CGI dogs and all. Austin, what have you been watching? Have you been able to catch anything, given the move and everything?
It's been crazy, but somehow in the midst of all the painting, I got stuff going on TV, and I'm just like, all right, let's pay attention to this. So I watched. Are you two fans of a Bo Burnham by any chance?
I am watching this tonight. If this is what I think it is, yeah.
Recommended it to me today, so
let me tell you. This special, so it's unlike anything that I've seen from Bo. Obviously, he's a really good director with 8th Grade. He's a really good writer. He's writing the Sesame Street songs. And then, of course, his other specials on stage in front of an audience, man. This special is literally Bo, a bunch of technology, and his house. And what he does is he brings us these little music videos, these skits where he's controlling the lights and he's slowly taking his shirt off and he's sinking into the madness of being alone during the pandemic. But in the midst of this, you kind of cut back and see the behind the scenes process of Bo watching himself on a computer. And it almost feels, I know it's a comedy special, it almost feels like a movie because there is a genuine character arc. The way that it ends almost leaves this weird door open for more with this character, even though it's not a character, it's Bo Burnham. I've never seen anything like this. It is one of the best comedy specials. I'm going to call it that because that's what it is, but it feels unlike anything else. It's one of the best I've ever seen. I wasn't getting those belly laughs that I did during What or Make Happy, but I was still on board with this entirely, having the best time. And this is one of the coolest things I've seen on Netflix in a long time. Huge recommendation. It's not going to be for everyone. If you don't find this kind of stuff funny, then you're not going to like it. But if you like Bo Burnham, I'm telling you, this is a huge recommendation for me.
People
sounds awesome.
Yeah, they say it's going to be this thing where it's like, do you like this funny comedy special where you're not going to laugh 1 second and still have and they said that's what this is going to be. It's I love that Bo, even when Bo makes me belly laugh, he often makes me think, and his stuff sticks in my brain for months and months after. So, I mean, I'm all for this without a doubt. I can't wait. I think I'm literally going to, after we're done here, I'm checking it out.
That sounds like a great recommendation. I have been hearing nothing. The main recommendations I've been getting are Mayor of Easttown, which has been like nonstop, especially after, I guess, the finale last night. And then today it was all Bo Burnham. That's all I kept hearing from people. Like, you got to watch this. You got to watch this. So I'm glad to hear that, that is consistent here on the pod, and I will be checking that out.
Yes.
Sean, hit us with some awards talk. What's going on?
So there was a lot of breaking news last week, where the Academy Awards are now going to be in late March. I believe March 27th was the actual date, but don't quote me on that. But that's going to be a month earlier than that April 27th debacle that happened last year, where like I think the Oscars like just wrapped up. Joaquin Phoenix is like backing away from the stage and he's like munching on Hopkins' Oscar, and like I.
You took yourself out there.
I don't know. I'm just so mad at it still, and I'm just kind of getting over it. Okay. That's one thing that's happening is it's a month earlier, which is weird to say it's a month earlier because technically, according to the tradition, it's still a month later. But you know what? Fine. They're competing with a lot of different sporting events that are all being smushed in. I think there's going to be like 8 different Olympics within 2 months, so that's going to be like fantastic to try to watch. All of that. And so because of all of that, they decided to go with that March date. They also said it's going to be within the 10-month period of 2021. Thank God. This was something I was genuinely worried about, that they'd go back into January and February again, but they are literally ending it at the end of December 31st. Now, that's for limited release. So get ready for something to come out in January. And then of course it's kind of, I don't know, it's technically that always happens though. That's going to happen. I'm just happy with normalcy where it's ending right now in December. The last thing is the pandemic rule, which is the most interesting one. They said it's still going to be, you don't have to have the film in theaters. Now people are split on what's going to happen with this. Because on one hand they say, you know what, it's another year, the pandemic's still a little bit rough or still a little bit rocky, that might be it. Other people are like, oh, all theaters everywhere are going to die. And so those are the two spectrums on this one. And so I look at this and I think that truly, honestly, it is just like a light touch of hey, still a pandemic. Let's just keep it, the streamers. A lot of movies went to streamers already. And so it's going to be tough to get those into theaters. But now next year, it is going to eventually be theaters again, or you have to be in theaters. Now, the one thing the Academy needs to do is be clear about that. And the fact that they're not being clear about that is a problem. And that might be the issue there. So those 3 big breaking news articles happened. And so in my article, I decided to talk about
none of that.
None of that. And instead went with a different current topic of who's going to break the record that Katharine Hepburn set, winning 4 performance Oscars.
It's a good article. I enjoyed it.
It was very fun to write, but I'm like writing it and being like, oh my God, who gives a shit? So make sure you read it. It was honestly a lot of fun though, because Katharine Hepburn has 4 performance Oscars. No one else has touched that. A lot of actors have 3 performance Oscars. Notice I keep on saying performance Oscars because technically Frances McDormand has 4 Oscars, and Walt Disney has 427 Oscars. And so I'm going with the performance Oscars. The majority of those actors with 3 performance Oscars have pretty much either retired or slowly gotten out of the spotlight. Frances McDormand, I don't want to give everything away, but read it through, but it's most likely going to be a possible, the ladies have the possible way of doing it. I think you know which ladies I'm talking about when it comes down to it. Regardless, Meryl's always got that shot going on. But then it could be one of these few that I have there with only 2 performance Oscars, and those could be somebody that they could grab 2 more. So it was interesting to examine what can happen in the future, or could just be someone that wins 4 Oscars in a row. Who knows? That could happen. I
did enjoy that you called the column "Chasing Hepburn" this week. So
I don't know.
It's going to be a movie or a documentary or something one day.
I had some sort of documentary theme in mind. It's like Chasing Hepburn.
So Sean, since you're a big awards guy, do you think that trying to make this transition without laughing, but do you think Elizabeth Olsen's going to have a shot for Doctor Strange 2? And the reason I say this is because she's going to be reintroducing her accent in Doctor Strange 2. And Austin, this is the story I'm throwing in today because this is just really ridiculous. But Elizabeth Olsen was speaking with Rolling Stone, and they were talking about WandaVision a little bit, and the fact that her accent had been toned down and actually was gone in WandaVision, really. She went on to say, so that started with Civil War. The Russos said, can she just have a softer accent because she's been in America and has to have been speaking English more?
Mm-hmm.
And she sucks.
This is where it gets interesting. Elizabeth Olsen then said, so I was like, sure. I do have to say that in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, after the experience she has in WandaVision, she goes back to an accent that's more true to her. Austin, my question is, what happened in WandaVision that makes her revisit her accent?
So, yeah, well, man.
Please have all the answers.
Gosh. Yeah, no. So here's what I said. Honestly, this was my only way of explaining during WandaVision, because she kind of went back into, I think it was the moment where she first comes out of the bubble, she has the accent. And I saw that, I'm like, what's she doing? Why is she doing that? So my explanation was, whenever she is like full on Scarlet Witch rage, she goes back into her accent. So for me, I almost expected that to be the case, because I expect her to be a villain in Doctor Strange too, like a full-on villain, like a non-redeemable villain. Well, she'll get redeemed eventually, but I think she's going to be the baddie. And because of that, I think she's going to have her accent. Now, whether or not that's something that is the case, because this is just kind of something I came up with, that may be true, may not be true. But from what she's saying, it does sound like, okay, whenever she gets enraged, whenever she goes into that Scarlet Witch-esque thing, that's when she gets her accent. I don't know if that's the best choice. I would rather her just stay with her accent, because it's been so ridiculous all throughout the MCU. But I think that's what they're going for. And that kind of tells me she's going to be a villain in that movie.
I think you're right. I think there's also the aspect of she was trying to play like the quote unquote American ideal in a sitcom, meaning like her character in the show was trying to like portray, that sitcom lifestyle and stuff like that. So, Sean, you are a big fan of the Sokovian accent, I think, right?
I thought you were going to say I'm a big fan of Sokovian Accords. Like, I've been someone that's really been championing them, like writing letters to Congress.
But does this impact you in any way?
I mean, this was always something that bothered me, because I always thought that Scarlet Witch's superpower was that she was able to switch accents at random, and that wasn't the case. Apparently, she has like a red ball, and although Austin's theory holds legs, because that is Avengers Endgame, and her one line, it's in an accent. It's because she's going full blown on Thanos right there. Yes. And so it sort of makes sense, where she is just like, if she regresses away from her past, which was Vision at that time, and she slowly knows she's losing Vision, then like she'll just go right back to where she was in her past. It's one of those things where you really just like shouldn't have it. It's tough. I think it's just tough in general to do an accent like that. And this is a hell of a leap I'm about to make, but the show Chernobyl, or the miniseries Chernobyl, they just decided, they're like, you know what? English accents, because this is not going to work. So I kind of loved that moment. I really loved like that they like pulled that off, because I think that like sometimes you just come off sounding like Boris and Natasha. I think that I almost said the American language, the English language, like with the Russian accent, never really looks or sounds great. And that's just like always been something that like, I've heard like, phoneticists, which is not a word, like talk about, but God, it's not even phoneticist at all. What is it?
It sounded good when you said it.
Okay, wait, roll that back. And phoneticist. I forgot what I was saying after it.
Oh my God. Well, that's happening. So that's
all that usable?
It's all staying in. You know how we go here. All staying in. But hey, it's kind of interesting. I guess that is something that she's talking about out there when she's talking about WandaVision and talking about other things, because people did pick up on it, right? And it's the MCU, so every little piece of the MCU is going to be criticized. And of course, this is part of that. So we'll see what we get down the road. I do think she's going to be the big bad in Doctor Strange 2, and I'm looking forward to that. So let's jump over to box office talk, because this is kind of wild. We had a really big box office weekend, which shows that theaters are back and that people have been looking or waiting, I guess, for theaters. So all that talk over the past year of like theaters are dead, not really. A Quiet Place 2, of course, was the big release, as well as Cruella, but A Quiet Place 2 over 4 days took in 57 million, which is huge in pandemic times. And Cruella took in 26.5, which is also another big take. Spiral was number 3. So this is kind of crazy, Sean, isn't it? That we are, we were talking for the longest time about our theaters going to rebound, and then look what happens when we get 2 films thrown in there that people have been waiting for. I think Quiet Place 2 in particular, people have really been waiting to go see. But Cruella has been getting great word of mouth that I think had surprised a lot of people. So here we go, back to the theaters.
Wait, I'm confused. Where's Tenet? I thought that.
Did you see the thing though that I guess A Quiet Place 2, like their weekend gross worldwide, is more than Tenet's entire box office?
Oh my goodness!
I don't want to.
Sorry, buddy.
Oh God, Tenet. I will. I'll say like this was. It's just sort of the perfect storm of a great box office weekend, because masks were coming off legally. Masks were coming off because of the CDC. It was Memorial Day weekend. The movie A Quiet Place Part 2, that can only be seen in theaters, was put out as well. With all of that there, people came to the theater. Many of my friends who are just like, who a couple of weeks back, couple of months back said, Sean, you're crazy to go back into theaters. Why are you going back into theaters? Not even crazy too. They're just like, I think I'm gonna sit it out until then. They all went to see A Quiet Place. And I think that this was finally, the dam finally did break. In terms of Cruella, it's trickier because I don't know if those numbers are also home viewing with the premium cost or not. Do you know for Cruella?
I don't know. No, this is all box office, actually.
Yeah.
So this is just theaters.
Yeah, this is all box office.
Oh, very cool. So that actually is amazing then, because I think a lot of people on their rainy days everywhere chose to, pay the money just to have, watch Cruella at home. But the fact that a lot of people went to the theater for it, that shows that people are really, really excited to go to the theater, and they wanted to bring their kids, so they brought them to Cruella. Although the people that I was in the theater with brought their kids to A Quiet Place Part 2. And boy, oh boy, they were quiet. They were dead quiet. It was just unbelievable. They were like, "Ooh, I'm not saying a word." Oh man.
Austin, is this surprising to you that the box office is bouncing back now that we have some big releases offered in the theaters?
I don't want to say surprising. It's just it makes me happy. I love box office. I love looking at these numbers. Now, the OCD in me, I'm looking at this like, okay, how did Cruella actually do? I'd love to see the numbers of how many people watched. I'm just like, I want to know the numbers, because, and I say that because I was noticing the interest in not only my Cruella review, but other YouTubers like that I associate myself with. Their Cruella reviews did better than their Quiet Place reviews. There was more interest in Cruella, and that was the case with me. And I'm like, why is that? Is because, obviously a lot of people went to see Quiet Place, but I don't think everyone who would have went to the movies actually went, because I still think the pandemic has some people, and that's obviously going to be the case, right? But then you have Cruella. Not only can you go to the theater, well, you can pay the premium price and watch it at home. So at the end of the day, I wouldn't be shocked to see Cruella ending up having the better combined numbers than A Quiet Place. But still, to see that number that A Quiet Place brought in, man, this is, and I kind of said this about In the Heights as like a communal experience. No. This is the movie of the year to see in the theater. This is the one you have to see and experience. And I'm so glad they opted to hold out until it was only a theatrical release. And I think it's the perfect one to do that. So these numbers make me so happy. And fellas, I think we're slowly starting to get back on track. It's really nice to see that, because I'm getting fired up to go back to the theater more often.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think that's spot on in terms of Cruella. It's a really good point. It's going to be interesting to see what the numbers look like when you add in Disney Plus. And I mean, Sean, you talked about the weather. I mean, the East Coast in particular, the weather was horrendous all weekend until yesterday.
True.
So that works in the favor of Disney Plus. They must have known something.
One more off-brand comment. Where was Dream Horse on the list?
I also forgot to mention earlier that I did see Dream Horse, and I wanted to mention.
I want to see Dream Horse.
It's actually a really good. It's like a feel-good movie.
I heard it was good. Yeah, I heard it was really good.
I'm checking
Toni
out.
Collette is really good at it.
Okay.
Damian Lewis, I can take her or leave him.
Is he trying to shake off that billions?
Yeah, I'm just not a huge fan of him. Never have been. He annoyed me back in Homeland, back in the day. So
yeah, I could see that.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, the other way that I know the box office outlook is looking good is because I bought stock in AMC at like $2 back in the day, like last year at some point. And I think today it is currently at 30 something a share, if not more. So it's really starting to skyrocket, which is pretty solid. Yeah, it's at 38 right now. So, hey, that's a good sign. I'm excited for that. The other thing is we're getting good movies in theaters, and I was trying to think about this because I often when I'm reviewing, I am very cognizant of like, am I being overly kind to these films? But the films that I think we're getting in theaters are films that the studios knew were going to perform well. They knew they had good films in their pocket, so they didn't release them early. And they wanted to hold out for this moment when theaters are reopening and stuff like that. So I think we're in for a summer of just solid films in general, more so than usual, because anything that would have been that more middle of the road type of film has been dumped already on streaming or has been sent to VOD. So, I mean, that's definitely the case. You mentioned In the Heights, and I just can't wait for what that's going to do in theaters because that movie is phenomenal.
So good, man.
It's like this Twilight Zone level of what was happening in the past year. I mean, it was Twilight Zone on many levels, but one of them was that studios were like pushing movies into the theater that they didn't want anyone to see. It was just kind of the weirdest moment.
Tenet, no kidding.
That's so weird. That's so weird. But you're exactly right because studios were like, instead of dumping them on demand, we're just going to put them in theaters because we know nobody's going.
It's like, look, they're in theaters.
Yeah. Oh man.
Fulfill that contractual obligation.
Yeah.
They said they put it in theaters. Never said they had to have a certain number of people see it. All right, so let's jump over. And Austin, really interested to get your perspective on this MGM being acquired by Amazon story. So we had talked about this last week. It was rumored at the time, but now is official. Amazon has officially acquired MGM in a deal that sends the film studio and the vast library of film and TV properties to Amazon. So Amazon Prime Video about to really get stocked up with a lot of old MGM properties. So that should be fun. We're talking about properties like James Bond and Rocky, Candyman, Stargate, like a lot of these big properties that have a pretty solid following. Legally Blonde is another one that keeps getting touted. I'm like, it's funny when they're like, yeah, MGM, the studio of James Bond and Legally Blonde. Two interesting selections there. But, people are worried that this means that we're going to see the next Bond film head to Amazon or some sort of release with Amazon. The producers, Barbara Broccoli, I love saying that name, and someone else, I forget the name, they have come out and said that they are committed to a theatrical release. Committed is not the same thing as saying it will be released, just as a heads up there. So I do think Amazon will still play with that a little bit. But, this is yet another big acquisition or big merger, and we're seeing a lot of these happening. What are your thoughts on Amazon taking MGM, Austin?
Well, it's another confirmation that we're continuing to head in what we have been heading in for a long time. And I think the pandemic only pushed that forward even more. And that's the age of streaming, right? Amazon's getting their hands on all of these properties. And we're not only going to see new movies going to theaters, we're going to be seeing TV spinoffs. We're going to be seeing these properties go more towards long form content. I mean, you think of something like RoboCop. I think that would be perfect to, if they want to go nostalgic, bring back some of the old actors, dive back in, but do an 8-episode series, right? So to me, it says, okay, not only are, these studios being bought by these streaming companies, I think we're going to see more things like this. I know there's been rumors like Apple and Sony and some of these other, but I think about it and I'm like, Amazon, think of how old MGM is. Think of how new Amazon is.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as Netflix gets their hands on whatever studio they're going to inevitably buy, Netflix is, in the grand scheme of things, they're brand new, right? Compared to some of these companies that have been around for 80, 90, forever, right? So to see the new guys come in and just buy up all the old guys and buy up all these properties. But that's how it's going because streaming is such a big deal. And I always knew it was headed in that direction. But the second the pandemic hit, it just pushed everything 10 years forward. And it's going to keep going that way. I went off on a tangent, but Amazon buying MGM, I think, is really cool for these properties because we can do a lot with so many things that wouldn't have been touched otherwise.
I'm with you there, and I think we get some eyes on some of the MGM properties that maybe we haven't seen much of in the past. Yeah. Of course, we have Candyman coming out this year. Finally, I think in August we have, of course, in October, I believe it is, the James Bond, Daniel Craig's final James Bond outing. Which he's been wanting to get out of this role forever, and the pandemic only prolonged it. And he was like, "God damn it, Sean!"
I just love Daniel Craig and like Junk. It's like, how'd you prepare for Bond this time? He's like, I want to die.
It is so true. It is so true.
So
Sean, MGM is now part of Amazon. Will you?
What?
Will you be subscribing to MGM Prime?
I will absolutely be subscribing to MGM Prime, and because it feels a lot like the HBO Max sort of deal, where a little bit less, but where there's just going to be an insanely large catalog of MGM movies, and right now HBO Max, I watch a ton of Warner Brothers movies. I watch a ton of other movies on HBO Max because HBO Max is a larger spanning deal that has so much more. In fact, HBO Max has MGM movies. Gone with the Wind, everyone's favorite tolerance biopic, is
oh my God. Well done.
It's technically MGM. And because it's technically MGM, it's going to be a little bit interesting because it's also a property of TCM, which is a property now of HBO Max. And like while I just described that, I just imagined the Three Stooges all hitting each other. So it's really going to be an interesting tangled web. I think it's going to not be very cut and dry, but I'm going to be able to fire up my Amazon and look at a ton of MGM properties. My thing on this is, what is the end game? Is it just to have a ton of movies? Are they going to be creating other original properties? We talked about is the next Bond going to be delivered to our doorstep in 2 days? Is it what's going to be the next move? And will they start filming? Amazon already makes movies, so they're sort of already good with that. They didn't really need MGM for that. Did they want the MGM studio for that? Did they want the MGM name to make those movies? Are they pretty good with that Amazon studio? Or like you said, is it going to be MGM Prime, or will MGM with a little M Prime M or something? I don't I'm pitching right now, Bezos. Talk to me, baby. I can design for you.
I'll tell you, whatever they do is going to be better than the Warner Brothers and Discovery logo, which is looking like this. Warner Brothers Discovery. I think I made this back on word art in 2001.
God, what a throwback!
It looks like something I did.
Literally, all I can hear is an impotent trumpet. This is just the This is just absolutely ghastly.
It feels like the universal dun 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 should be playing when that comes out, because it's just so. What is that? Why is that there?
I feel so. I often feel bad about this stuff because I'm just like, oh, they didn't, but there was work that went into this. There was a committee that decided this and stuff like that, and so I feel bad about saying what I'm saying here, but also, how did this get past a committee? How did so many people vote yes for this?
I don't know if you guys follow sports. There's a committee that that came up with the Washington football team.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, come on, guys. Can you give us? And they're thinking about sticking with it. I know it's just a thing, but they're thinking about sticking with it. I'm like, I look at this and I'm like, how many people were involved here? I just want to know how many people, because that would make me feel maybe better if it was like 1 or 2. But
that's also a whole nother thing to me. Like, they should have been prepared, because it's not like this, like that the outcry about the Washington Redskins came out of nowhere. We were building up to it for a decade, and they're like caught off guard. What are we going to call it? The Washington?
Dan's like, what's everyone talking about?
Let's call it the football team. Yeah.
The only other thing that really bothers me about this, and this is really petty, but there's no punctuation on the stuff that dreams are made of, and it bothers me for some reason. Like, I feel like there needs to be an exclamation point, or
that it ends in a preposition, or is that?
Or a question mark? The stuff that dreams are made of?
Okay. Really? We're not sure. Yeah. Stay tuned. But yeah, hey, that's, like you said, there's a committee that came up with that, and that happened. Just like Aaron Taylor Johnson being cast as Kraven the Hunter happened. So I am really caught off guard by this casting, but it's been reported that Aaron Taylor Johnson has been cast as Kraven the Hunter and will appear in an upcoming Marvel solo movie about Kraven the Hunter, with plans for multiple films. So this has been in the works for quite a while. It sounds as though they were really going after some other big names too. I think they approached Keanu Reeves, who had long been fan casted in the role. They approached Brad Pitt, of all people. There's a listing out there that was pretty fascinating.
Their shot.
My personal, like, the person that I wanted to take this role, it's actually a guy that played Lobo in the Krypton, the show Krypton on Sci-Fi that was on for 2 seasons. He was like perfectly cast for that role, and Lobo is pretty much looks identical in terms of Kraven the Hunter. But Sean, Aaron Taylor Johnson getting a second shot at MCU stardom.
You're gonna go to me on this. Will he stick with the accent? I mean, hey, like, they're twins. We have to keep this completely canonical. So he has to stick with the accent as well. No, I mean, unfortunately, like always with comic book news, I don't know what any of this means. It's just like, oh, cool, he's a Spider-Man villain, right on. I'm excited. I'm gonna see it. Like, my my comic book knowledge goes purely by movies and movies alone. So I'd like to see this guy. Aaron Taylor Johnson is one that kind of disappeared on us all. I think it was right after Quicksilver. I think he stopped doing anything. He was in Kick-Ass, when he came onto the screen, and then all of a sudden it was just nothing. And then he just shows up in, a film we're all talking about a lot, in Tenet. And I'm just like, and I think most of us were about, maybe like halfway into the movie when we're like, oh my God, I think that's Aaron Taylor Johnson. I just had no idea.
I didn't know he was in Tenet.
Oh my God, yes.
Was he really?
Yeah, he does. He's the one that wakes him up and goes, temporal pincer movement.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, I put that movie out of my mind, obviously. And apparently Aaron Taylor Johnson as well. Austin, what are your thoughts on this casting? I expected an older actor, to be quite honest, but...
Well, gauging from Tenet, I know he can do a beard nice. Like, he looks good with a beard. So I'm like, yeah, okay, he's got a beard. The thing about me is, so all the outside stuff aside, I think Aaron Taylor Johnson can pull off Kraven. I think he can do it. I think he's a really good actor, and I like him in the role, and I really love Kraven from the comics. So please don't botch it, please. But you look at the fact that he played Quicksilver, and then the fact that they were just like, hey, let's get all the people in Hollywood, let's just ask them. It sounds like they don't know what they're doing. I hope that's not the case. And how are they going to explain? Because we know, I mean, it's a Spider-Man villain. Please connect Spider-Man at some point to this. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I feel like they need to do that. But if you're doing that, you're also saying this is somehow connected to the MCU, which means two Aaron Taylor Johnsons. And again, that's fine, right? It feels like there needs to be something, or someone needs to come out and say why they chose Aaron Taylor Johnson, and not just, he was our seventh option behind Brad Pitt and all of these random. I'm like, come on, guys, we need something better than that. So that aside, though, I do think he can pull off Kraven the Hunter. And it's nice to see him coming back into prominence because I genuinely think he's a good actor.
I'm with you. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how they do connect this with Spider-Man. Of course, we have Venom that's out there. We have he was part of the Sinister Six at one point, Kraven.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yes.
When we're talking about people like Michael Keaton's Vulture and Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio, even Jared Leto coming into the picture as Morbius at some point, should that movie ever be released. There's just a lot going on. They have a lot of potential. This kind of leads into our next story here. And Austin, I'm going to jump back to you for this, but the strong rumor, and I'm usually not a rumors guy, but I've been seeing this reported quite a bit, is that Willem Dafoe will be returning as the Green Goblin and be the big bad of No Way Home. Is that the title we're going with? I almost said No Way Out.
I literally just thought No Way Out.
Yeah. No Way Home, which personally I would be a fan of, because obviously they're going the Spider-Verse multiverse route here, and I love Dafoe's Green Goblin. But based on the fact that we also are getting Kraven and seeing some of these other films that are coming with Morbius and some of the rumors around Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone again, speaking of, and Kirsten Dunst, where are you with this rumor and with this movie in general?
Oh my God, I don't know. I mean, if the movie comes out and it's just Spider-Man just walking around the mall or something, I won't be surprised. I don't. There's so much going on, but there have been so many rumors, yet confirmations, and Alfred Molina coming out and essentially saying what his role is in the movie. For some reason, I still have people coming up to me and going, Austin, I don't buy the Spider-Verse thing. I don't buy it. And I'm like, why don't you buy it? Everybody, I mean, even Alfred Molina said he was doing it. And there's so much going into this. It's like, how are they not bringing in Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield? At this point, I still don't want my hopes on that level, because I feel like, me being a huge comic book fan, I'll be sitting in that movie theater and they don't show up and I'm just like, and I don't want that to be the case. I want to judge the movie for the movie. But there's so much going on with this film. And I understand the complaints of, man, I just want Tom Holland to have a Tom Holland Spider-Man movie with one villain and no connection and all that stuff. I get it. My thing is, we've already seen that with Toby. We've already seen that with Andrew. I'm okay with them going a different route. Maybe this is too much, but if they're bringing back Willem Dafoe, and the rumor being some of these multiverse villains making up the Sinister Six, I think that's a cool idea. It all comes down to execution. I like John Watts movies. I don't know if this is something that I trust just him with in its entirety. But it's not just him. It's Kevin Feige. It's all the people behind the scenes. It's Stan Lee looking down and saying, this is like everything I ever dreamed of. Because really, I mean, Stan Lee, I think of Stan Lee, the first character I think of is Spider-Man, and just imagining what Stan Lee would be seeing and thinking right now. If there ever was a live action Spider-Verse movie, I think that would be so cool. So there's a lot going in, but man, if they nail this has the potential to be one of the coolest comic book movies of all time. So I'm hyped about it.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. Sean, any concern about the number of rumors that we're getting around this film, and especially given that Spider-Man 3 of the original Raimi trilogy is really regarded as the worst of the three, mainly because of how many different characters it tried to incorporate in? Does that worry you at all?
That wasn't... Oh, I guess it was, but that wasn't its main issue in Spider-Man 3. There was a lot that kind of went wrong in Spider-Man 3. I mean, if I'm going to talk about the characters of Spider-Man 3, but they end and begin in the exact same place. I remember and this is just high school me, everyone else was like, we just saw Venom. And I'm like, oh, there really wasn't much character growth when it went on. Okay, I'll be over here. So they don't talk to me for the rest of the night at the party. And I think there's a lot worse that was going on there. I also think you have an overabundance of villains. It creates a problem. I think that we had a few movies, though, that had an overabundance of characters. They were little indies called Avengers Endgame and Avengers Infinity War. And how those worked was that they had a ton of characters, especially Endgame. But a lot of those characters had one line towards the end, and they focused on the main points of them. let's talk about these villains. We're going to do this. God help me, I don't know anything about comic books. This Sinister Six and Willem Dafoe's coming back in. They're going to all Malini. Jesus, I at least know that. Melina's coming back in, and all of them are coming back in there. I don't think you need to, or you definitely shouldn't give them as much focus as people are going to think they deserve. Because if you try to do that, much like Spider-Man 3 did, then it kind of collapses. They tried to make an entire story on the Sandman. They tried to make an entire story on Franco Goblin. They tried to make an entire story on Venom. And that's actually what hurt it. Not that those three were there, but that they tried to jam-pack a whole bunch in there for those three.
I think that's a very good point. My worry is I don't know where they're going with the Sinister Six, if this is the direction. The reason I say that is because in the Morbius trailer, you have sort of a little bit of a tease with Michael Keaton's Vulture popping up and, recruiting, so to speak, or at least interacting with Morbius. Morpheus is what I said. Morbius.
Why not?
Why not? At this point. So are they introducing the concept of the Sinister Six? Are we going to see multiple versions of it? Are we out, making stuff up as we go here? I don't know. I'm a little concerned about that. But Austin, you're the superhero comic book guy. Does this excite you at least? Are you excited for the prospects of this?
I am excited. There's this fear deep down. I'm like, man, if they botch this, oh boy, the outrage, the fact that the animated movie would be so good and this would be so bad. But the optimistic person in me, and I tend to be that way when it comes to things like this, because I love these characters. I really hope, again, if they nail it, then it's going to be incredible. It's just balancing these different universes and making it cohesive in a way that makes sense. Because one thing I've noticed about fans of the MCU, myself included, is things have to fall in line. Do not X-Men this, because if they X-Men this, it's not going to make any sense. The MCU makes sense. So allow it to fall in line and somehow explain these characters being on screen together. They can do that. Give me a compelling story. Sure. I think the movie's going to be great, and I hope that's the path it goes down.
We haven't even talked about Miles Morales and whether or not they'll introduce Miles in this, or that's expected at some point that they're going to go a live action Miles Morales. Donald
Glover is his uncle in the first one.
Yeah.
And he was so young in Homecoming. He was super young, but they had the time jump in Endgame, and now he's almost the right age for Miles Morales. So I'm thinking maybe they do it. There's a possibility
with Donald Glover as the
So Donald Glover is the uncle, right? So he says in Homecoming, he's like my young nephew, meaning he acted as if he was super duper young. So I'm like, okay, well, we'll have to wait years. Endgame, there's a time jump. So I'm like, oh, so it's been that time. Now there's it's a tiny little rumor. I've seen a couple people so in the comics, most of the time when Miles comes in, Spider-Man dies, and they are not killing off Tom Holland. So my theory personally is that Miles is going to come into either Tobey or Andrew's universe, and one of those two are going to bite the dust.
Andrew.
That's what I think. That's what.
It'll be Andrew in 2 seconds. Yeah.
Are we voting?
That's what I think.
I just think that's the one that I think. Oh wait, no, I don't know. The internet got weird, and now they like Andrew. But
but that will make sense though, right? And make Tobey Maguire kind of the Peter B. Parker from Spider-Verse, helping out Miles from the other universe. Come on, y'all. That makes sense. That makes sense to me. I hope they do it.
Man, but that's a heavy ass lift for this movie. That's yet another thing for them to do.
See, that's the thing, though. I think they're going to maybe introduce that, maybe do it. I still think No Way Home's going to be its own thing. I think we're going to get another Spider-Verse movie down the line and expand on Tobey and Andrew and Tom being in this little multiverse thing. I think that's a good possibility with Sam Raimi going from multiverse to Spider-Verse and doing that in live action. That's what I think.
Oh God!
I mean, I think that Andrew Garfield said he's not in the movie, so they just had a mannequin of Andrew Garfield, and they chuck him off a building, and
Every time that one of them comes out and says, "I'm not involved," I always get an IM or a DM from someone. An IM. Can you imagine? AOL Instant Messenger. I get a DM from someone, and they're always like, "See, he's not in the movie." I'm like, "Oh yeah," because this would be the first time that
solved.
Oh my God! How many times have you seen an actor deny being in a movie just to try to keep any sort of suspense going? But we were, not to beat a dead horse here, but we were talking earlier on a live about the trailer for No Way Home. No Way Home. Man, that's gonna throw me off every time,
dude.
Right? But we were talking about the trailer because a lot of people believe it's coming out today or tomorrow or sometime soon. It's probably going to be in front of one of the new movies coming out in the next couple of weeks. Peter Rabbit 2 comes out on June 11th, and that's a Sony film, so I'm kind of expecting it. Yeah, finally getting that Peter Rabbit 2 release.
Peter Rabbit universe. Yeah.
Quiet Place 2, Tenet, Peter Rabbit. But I feel like that's going to be. I don't know how they're going to tease this film because I'm expecting that it's going to be a teaser and not a full-fledged trailer. But there's so many rumors out there that almost to not confirm anything, I think is going to be a choice. To confirm stuff is also a choice. I just don't know where they fall on this. You
got to give little pieces of it. I mean, I think of the Avengers Endgame trailer. We didn't know that. Technically, we didn't know Tony Stark was going to survive, and then they didn't do that until a couple of trailers later. But how can I not remember Paul Rudd, Ant-Man? We kind of didn't know he was surviving either, and he had a funny little comedic sting at the end. So you give little itty bitty pieces of this, but not the whole daddy.
I agree.
Daddy.
I keep thinking whole daddy.
Okay. I don't know what that was.
Is that a measurement?
And in the guy at the podcast,
I'm not riffing on this bit.
I'll move us along real quick. I keep thinking about the Rise of Skywalker trailer and how at the end of it you had Palpatine talking, and I feel like I would love to something like that, but with Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin.
Just same clip.
Yeah. It's just the same thing. They're gonna Peter Parker, you're a Palpatine. All right, let's move on here. We're going to jump over to some Black Panther conversations. Deadline's reported that Denai Guerrera will reprise her role of Okoye in both Black Panther Wakanda Forever and the recently hinted at. They kind of said they were developing this, but never really confirmed it. But now it's confirmed that there's going to be a Disney Plus origin series for Black Panther, which I'm assuming is going to deal with the warriors and all of that. But Ryan Coogler is behind both, and that's kind of exciting to me. But Sean, are you excited to see her back?
I love Denai Guerrera. She's so magnificent of an actress. I don't know, she was given a decent amount to do in these Black Panther movies. I'm thinking she's gonna be playing a more central role because she was someone who wasn't blipped, I believe. So she was sort of left behind. And so with that in mind, she's got a lot of drama to work with. She's got a lot of whatever's going to be going on with her. She's such a passionate actress. Unfortunately, I think I only know her in the two mediums of Walking Dead and this. But in both of those, she absolutely brings it. She is the best part of that show. She's the best part of, one of the best parts of the past movie and the other movies as well. She's got that great attitude. She sort of fits in Wakanda perfectly. It's I'm absolutely all for this without a doubt.
Austin, how about you? Are you excited about the series aspect of getting a prequel story of sorts or an origin story?
Yeah, I think any time you can expand on that kind of world. I mean, there's so much within Wakanda that I would love to explore. And I saw Black Panther and I'm like, oh man, we're going to really just kind of focus on this little corner of Wakanda, but there's a lot there. So this is one that I'm okay. And you see something like this, you're like, oh, they're milking it. But no, man, Wakanda is its own beast. To me, it doesn't even have to exist in the MCU to be exciting because just the technology that they have and the internal battles and struggles that I'm sure go on all the time there. So not only that, but then kind of focusing on Denai Guerrera's character. I love her. Like you all said, I think she is absolutely phenomenal. So to see her get that in long form, again, long form content.
Mhm.
WandaVision, Falcon Winter Soldier, and Loki, which I'm super psyched about. Continue to do this with some of these characters that didn't get that due in the movies, and I am completely on board. I think Marvel is they're really crushing the TV space right now.
They really are, and I think that a lot of people are indifference, not the word, but some people are very critical of the series because, of course, when you're in that type of medium, you're getting
Absolutely.
a different type of storytelling. Yes. But I've been impressed with the two that we've gotten for different reasons. Mm-hmm. But I'm excited to see this. I do wish that we would have seen Okoye pop up in Falcon and Winter Soldier, but I'm excited. I was just excited to be able to see any of the Wakandans pop up in that series, even though I think they were an afterthought.
I was going to say, I thought you weren't a fan of that.
Yeah, I mean, and I think this only furthers my point of it being an afterthought that we didn't get like Okoye. We got like the B team. But hey, it is what it is. So that's exciting. Also exciting is that Chris Hemsworth just posted that their Thor: Love and Thunder has wrapped and that the film is going to be, quote, batshit crazy, off the wall funny, and might also pull a heartstring or two.
Yes,
that's my most anticipated Marvel movie.
Oh, I think I'm with you. I am super hyped about that because Taika Waititi, everything he touches turns to gold.
It's amazing. And Taika is in motion capture in this, so probably as Korg, I'm assuming.
Yes.
In this picture, so we're getting more Korg.
More Korg.
Hey guys. And before we get to the final story that we're going to cover tonight, I know that everyone's very excited about this, but there is a CGI Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles reboot that is coming from Seth Rogen's production company of all places, and it will hit theaters next summer. So mark your calendars, get your lawn chairs out, and get ready.
It's Seth Rogen. I mean, the guy does great stuff when he's way behind the camera. Like, I don't think he's ever directed, but like his production company, him producing, man, he does good stuff.
Agreed.
I will say this is a little bit of a tangent here, but Alan Richardson.
Oh, Alan Richardson, yeah.
Richardson. He was one of the turtles in the two movies that Michael Bay did. Which I had no idea. And he recently was talking about his experience and just how horrendous of an experience it was to do those movies and how they didn't care about the cast and all kinds of stuff. So if you can find that clip, I'll link to it in the show notes, but it was very interesting to hear, especially given Michael Bay seems not to learn his lesson with these movies and stuff. I don't know. There's always something with his movies. Anyway, we are getting a sequel to Code 8. Have either of you seen Code 8?
I did, yes.
Did you enjoy Code 8, Austin?
I liked it more than I thought I would. I wasn't, a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, it's this crazy, unbelievable, cult classic type superhero movie. I thought it was okay. And low budget, I thought it was okay.
There you go. I'm right there with you. I very much enjoyed it, but I'm not at the cult classic level. But I was excited. I wanted to see more, so I'm happy that we're getting this story that we'll dive into. Sean, have you seen it?
I joke around a lot. I'm going to be dead serious here. I looked it up. I looked at many photos of it. I watched many videos of it. I truly can't remember if I have or haven't seen this movie. It's kind of scary to me. I mean, I think Sam's going to come in here like Olivia Colman saying, "We're having chicken." And I'll be like, "I won't leave my flat." And it is just one of the things where I'm truly freaking out because the way the cops look, I'm like, or the way the cyborg cops look, I'm like, oh yeah, I think I remember seeing something like that. But I from what I remember on this, I remember everyone saying that, oh, this was made for $13 and, we should be, worshiping the ground that the director walks on because that was the case. I'm like, I don't know, it looks kind of fake. So I'm just sitting there kind of wondering what the deal is. And so I've forgotten most of what this is. I think there was some interesting stuff there. So, you do this story.
Well, I'll try to remind you here. So the original film was crowdfunded. So I believe it was a short originally, and then they crowdfunded to get the full movie made. This is Robbie Amell and his cousin, Stephen Amell, better known from Arrow. Robbie Amell is currently in Upload on Amazon Prime, which if you haven't watched that series, I highly recommend that.
Yeah.
It is. That show came out of nowhere for me. I was not expecting to like it, and I kind of love it. But the first film followed a group of individuals, 4% of people living in Lincoln City, who possess special abilities and are often confronted by advanced militarized police technology. The sequel is going to follow the journey of a teenage girl fighting to get justice for her slain brother at the hands of corrupt police officers. After becoming a witness to the cover-up, she becomes a target and enlists the help of an ex-con, Robbie Amell, and his former partner in crime, Steven. Together, they face a highly regarded and well-protected police sergeant who will use every tool to prevent himself from being exposed. The original director is back for this. Austin, this sounds right up my alley. Like, I'll watch this. Is this something that you're interested in?
It does. I like. I just like the idea behind it. I think any different sci-fi project coming out gets me excited. And I think the fact that the first was so successful, that tells me that, you know what, if they have the heart to do it and give us a good story, then I think they're going to deliver on that. So yeah, I'll definitely be tuning in. I was, again, you know, I didn't love the first one, but I was really impressed with what they were able to do. And I think they have a lot of passion behind it. So that's very important when you're telling a story like this. So give me good sci-fi. I like that.
Totally with you there. Sean?
I'm going to have to give the first one a little watchy-roo once again. Just to be sure. No, I mean, truly, like, I'm sort of like low-key bashing this, but I don't mean to. I did. This had some really cool, like, themes to it. This had some really cool elements to it. So yes. I think that, you know, opening up a new world to it with a sequel, and the fact that I think this meant that sort of a crowd demanded a sequel. The crowd demanded a sequel. Here he is. He's doing better with words. And like, instead of it being funded, it's going to be Netflix is going to really help out with a lot more of it. So I really, you know, not that there's anything wrong with being crowdfunded. Oh my God. But no, I truly love the idea of this. I'll definitely be following it. And yeah, sounds good.
It sounds as though the Amels have interest in kind of creating, of course, a Code 8 universe. There was originally a spinoff series that was set up at Quibi, of all places. Remember Quibi? And Roku acquired all of the Quibi series and is going to make them available. But so I don't know if that. I doubt they're going to continue producing shows like Quibi was doing. But it kind of sounds like this is happening in place of the series. So I'm all for it. I think there's a lot to explore. That's one thing I remember when watching this movie, the first one. I wanted more. I wanted to see like what else was going on in this world. I had a lot of questions. So I'm excited for it. And again, good sci-fi. Hit me with it. Yeah. Smack me upside the head with it. Very into good sci-fi.
Gotta keep on graduating up on that one.
Yeah.
Beat me with it.
Yeah.
Boil some hot water in.
R.I.P. Quibi, someone just said in the comments.
Oh, Quibi.
It's accurate.
I had Quibi, and the only thing I watched on there was Reno 911.
Actually, that's pretty good to get.
That was such a big get for Quibi when they announced that. Oh my God, I love Reno 911. Anyway, we're not getting any good sci-fi this weekend, unless Flashback. I think that's kind of sci-fi-ish, but that is heading to VOD and digital. Spirit Untamed is heading to theaters, which people are pumped about, probably because there's a Taylor Swift song in the trailer. The Conjuring: The Devil Made Me Do It is coming to theaters and HBO Max this weekend, this Friday. Under the Stadium Lights, limited theaters, VOD, and digital. And Changing the Game, a documentary, is hitting Hulu this week. So lots of content coming. Sean, you look confused.
I just Googled Spirit Untamed. This is the horse movie that was in the trailer for the Shrek VHS. And so this
people
is a
love
sequel to that?
Yeah, the trailer's actually really good.
I can't believe this is happening. Okay, I'm gonna have to do a lot of stuff here. I'm gonna have to watch Code 8 and the Bo Burnham and the Spirit series.
All by tomorrow morning, please.
Yes.
Yeah, it's hey, animated movies, right? We talked about this last week with your column about animated movies coming out, and
well, I didn't put this one in it.
Yeah, well, right. There's another one, right? There was a screening offered for this last week at like 10 a.m. on Wednesday. And I was like, while I am not above taking off work for a screening, it will not be for Spirit Untamed, unfortunately. So two other things coming up, just as we remind you every week. Marvel Phase 3 trivia with myself and the Chumpcast next Thursday, and then Fast Saga 2 weeks after that, and Schitt's Creek trivia 2 weeks after that. Spoiler chats every week. Sean and I actually enjoy diving into some movies. We'll probably be talking Conjuring this weekend, I would assume.
Possibly.
Maybe?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
We fly by the seat of our pants on that one.
We really do pick that topic, like minutes before we hit record.
Sometimes it shows. Anyway, Austin, it was an absolute pleasure to have you, and always fun to welcome new faces to this podcast, but also just to dive into some of the topics that we were discussing. So let everyone know where they can find you and what you have going on.
Oh, thank you guys so much for having me on. This was a blast. I'd love to come back. Your all's chemistry is fantastic, and it's just cool to be here. You guys can find me on YouTube, Austin Burke, talking everything I can watch. Netflix, the Amazon, MySpace, original movies. It doesn't matter. I'm talking all of it. And then I'm also doing tier lists and a couple of comic booky things. Going to try to review Loki every single week. We're going to see what happens. It's 3 a.m. is not fun. But you guys can also find me on Letterboxd, Austin Burke, and then at the Burkinator on Twitter and Instagram. Just always talking films. And again, guys, you rocked it. You continue to rock it every single week. And I just appreciate you asking me to be on here today.
Absolutely. We appreciate you coming on, and we will have you back. We'll definitely have you back on.
Definitely.
Yes.
Sean, where can people find you?
Math Teacher Movies on Instagram. I do Monologue Mondays, What the Oscars Got Wrong Wednesdays, and Final Shot Fridays.
Can't get through it.
It was your reaction on your headphones, like I was really loud, so you had to throw them off. It's like when Andre the Giant farted on the set of The Princess Bride and the sound technician said, I review movies of old and new. I review TV shows of old and new. Also, on GuideTheMovies.com, I have an awards column called Awards Watch with Sean. Shut up.
Awards Watch with Math Teacher Movies. One day.
With Math Teacher Movies? Oh, no.
It has been since the beginning.
No, come on. Don't mess with me on that.
I swear.
Code 8, was it?
What? Anyway, you can find me at Guide to Movies on Instagram, Guide to Movies 1 on Twitter, and GuideToMovies.com for all of the movie news, reviews, the latest, the fun, and catch the podcast every week. We do live streams, typically on Tuesdays, and then on Wednesday mornings, the podcast will be released. So if you are watching this tonight, or if you're tuning in late and you didn't catch the beginning, you can go back and watch it, or just wait till tomorrow morning when the podcast will be released on all major streaming platforms. Austin, thank you once again for being on. Always a blast. And we will have to chat about Spider-Man No Way Home when that trailer pops at some point this week. So, Sean, do you want to tell people to do something to the subscribe button? I know you really love that phrase.
Hey, hey, yo. Hey, yo. This is back as my friends make fun of me for this when we play golf. Hey, yo, smash that subscribe button.
Hey, there it is.
All right, guys. Thanks so much. We'll chat soon.